the suppression of the use of marijuana and of the forces lurking behind it are the most important jobs this department is now engaged in. In 1930, the records on marijuana in the Washington office of the Narcotics Division scarcely filled a small folder like this. Today, they fill cabinets.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, Coloradians and everyone that's smart enough to listen from the outside.
One of the most amazing plants we've ever discovered.
The pot party, the trippers, the grasshoppers, the hip ones, all gathered in secrecy and flying high as a kite.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Stoned Appetit with your host. As always, it's me, Kip, and across the screen, we've got another freshy episode with a guest from outside, I guess, Colorado. So we got all sorts of stuff to talk about. But before we get into that, let's see how Chris is doing. Chris, how are you today, Bubba?
I'm doing great, man. We've got the Olympics going on right now. So just supporting our local Colorado athletes in there and watching that and having a good time.
I really didn't see you go in the Winter Olympics or the thing that's taken your priority with the Super Bowls coming up this week. I mean, outdoor life, the world is burning, Joe Rogan's at the stake, and you lead with Winter Olympics?
Dude, have you not watched any yet? Curling is insane.
The only sport where you and I could pass off as athletes, curling.
Exactly.
I like it. Well, yeah, like I teased when we introed here today, we have a killer guest. We have Vahan Ajamian. I think I said that right, from High Tide. He's a capital markets advisor coming to talk with us today about, we have a lot of questions, not only about High Tide, but also about the cannabis scene in Canada, as well as his background and his intricate knowledge of the industry. Before we get into our conversation with Vahan, I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors. We may be talking with a guest about Canadian cannabis today, but we grow some of the best flower right here in goddamn Denver, Colorado. And I can speak to that because we recently did a Seed and Smith tour, our favorite sponsors, at their Oakland Street location. That's right, they're doing tours again. And we got to go through the whole gambit. You know, we got to see what they're working on, whether popping phenos or just playing the hits. We got to slide through the store. They have all of their flower available to us to pick out, so you can watch it from seed all the way up to flowering, and then you can go buy that exact same herb. I've been high as a kite all month long, Chris. I've been really vibing this lemon soul flower. It's so solid. I just can't get enough of it. And I think everybody that's listening to this would do themselves a favor. Go try out the Seed and Smith flower, I guess, array. They have locations, obviously, at Oakland Street and their own spot up at Hecla Way, but their flowers peppered all through the metro area. So if you go to www.seedandsmith.com, you can see where all their, products are available for purchase. I swear by the flower, but everyone knows that we live on that dart pen. So that thing is gnarly as hell. And then our second sponsor, Chris, we're talking homegrown weed. We're talking mom and pop shops. We're also talking about our partners in crime for our cannabis dinner that's coming up this week for those listening at home. It's this Thursday, and that's our friends over at Callie's Cannabis. You know, Charles has got a long, vast history working in the cannabis industry from the days in California to when he started up shop up in Niawat. And now he's got 3 locations of Callie's across the metro area, one in North Glen, one at 31st and Larimer, and the one at 7th and Kenosha Court. He's growing fantastic flower, but he's also got killer rewards and deals of the day. So if you like wax, swing in on a Wednesday. If you're looking for vape cart deals, maybe you want to mail home some to your buddies from high school, go on Thursdays. If you only like flower, my band, that's a Friday written all over it. So no matter what, Seed and Smith and Callie's, they both have something for you, whether it be at their cannabis locations or finding their products around the metro. We swear by them. We smoke them. We wouldn't promote brands that we didn't believe in. That's why we don't ever do any promotions for DoorDash.
Well done. Well done.
Yeah. All right, so let's get into this conversation. Chris, I'll let you do the honors. Vahan, welcome to Stoned Appetit.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right, Vahan, we normally like to start every episode off kind of the same way, but since you are not in Colorado, what we normally do is we ask, are you a transplant or native to Colorado? So what's your answer?
Are you a Canadian?
Well, I'm a Canadian, born and raised in Toronto. However, I've been in Colorado many times covering the cannabis industry as an analyst, and most recently back in September, where we did a due diligence tour and ended up acquiring New Leaf Naturals down there. So, I've been there a couple of times and quite recently, actually.
Okay, so we grew up in Toronto. What was that like? Give us a little brief bio.
Toronto's great. It's kind of like within Canada, it's just where you got to be, right? It is the cultural, social, economic engine of the country, right? It's kind of like a smaller scale of New York, right? I mean, it's everything is there in terms of they had a big head offices from the banks to the entertainment scene, the cultural scene. It's where you got to be. So very fortunate to have grown up here, went to university here, and went straight to the labor force after that. I love it here.
Did you play any hockey growing up or something?
I never actually learned to skate. I did some skiing, so I am enjoying watching the Winter Olympics. But I never ended up skating, so we ended up playing ball hockey in gyms growing up.
Ball hockey. So did people make fun of you for not playing real hockey?
Well, not the ones I was playing ball hockey with, right?
That is kind of interesting. So growing up in Toronto, I mean, it's a Maple Leafs like stardom, and then kind of dodged that bullet, but went in the university route. What did you do after that?
So after university, I always knew I wanted to be in business, and wanted to get my accounting designation. My dad was a professional accountant. I went to KPMG, did my 4 years there, and I realized, well, okay, auditing is not necessarily the funnest thing. I want to get into the stock market.
Yeah, you can say it.
Exactly, right? And it's you do all this work. You work sometimes till midnight every night. At the end of the day, you put out a report that says, effectively, we think these numbers are okay. And I want to be on the other side of it, on the finance side, saying, okay, here are the numbers. I take them as given. Now what? Where are things trending? How do I make money? Where's the future? What's going up? What's going down? And I was fortunate to join Cbd Securities to do equity research with probably the best research analysts in the country. It was there for about 7 years. Went to Beacon Securities as an analyst. There we were covering high growth stocks. So you're looking for home runs. And in early 2016, kind of fell backwards into covering cannabis stocks. Went from not knowing too much about the industry that was just about to become legal to being the go-to guy on TV and quoted in the media as just as much as there was huge investor enthusiasm, huge enthusiasm in the public about Trudeau obviously legalizing. So I started covering the cannabis industry in Canada, and then I was literally the first one to write up the cannabis industry in the United States. So back in November 2016, a week before the election, I was the first one to write up a report of here's the U.S. industry, federal versus state. At the time, it was the Cole memo and the ramifications. And look, there's an election coming up next week. Here's where cannabis is polling at the time: California, Nevada, Massachusetts, et cetera. And here's companies that have exposure. And that sort of led to our firm taking cannabis companies public from the U.S., not just Canada, focusing on them, trading them, providing research, which ultimately led to me being poached over to the issuer side.
Yeah. So I mean, that's what you're saying is you're a numbers guy.
I'm the numbers guy, capital markets, stocks for sure.
So when you first fell into the cannabis industry, what kind of, I mean, obviously you've stuck with it. So what kind of intrigued you about the whole cannabis entrepreneurship?
I've looked at a bunch of industries over time that had, that exponential curve, right? It's mobile advertising, it's sports betting, and, most of them had, a customer adoption question, right? You look at these, the graphs and everything is parabolic and going straight up. The good thing with cannabis, and which was unique and interesting, is, the market is already there. It's just a matter of how fast does it shift from, illicit to the legal market, and how much does it grow once it becomes legal, right? And the other good thing with cannabis is it's brand new, right? So there isn't, when I sat next to the gold analyst who'd be covering gold stocks for 40 years. I mean, he's seen everything, every, market cycle you could imagine, every mine he's been to. There was no, wise old man in cannabis stocks, because it just didn't exist. It was kind of new for everybody, right? So that was really, encouraging and an inviting place to be with the whole market, getting ready to explode. in both Canada and the US, again, where I was literally the only one talking about, writing about. Every time Jeff Sessions would say something and all the stocks would go down 15%, I'd end up going on TV and giving my take on it, and things often rebounded. So it was definitely a high pressure and fun thing to do. And now I'm on the issuer side at High Tide, and I get to see actual market in both Canada and the United States. Very, very interesting.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I wanted. My next question would lead to is tell us a little bit about what is High Tide, because I know that y'all have y'all's fingers or y'all's hands in multiple pies, whether it be brick and mortar, cannabis clubs, but also it sounds like y'all are on the forefront of blazing legislation as well.
So at its core, High Tide is a leading retail-focused cannabis company. We've got bricks and mortar assets, and we've got global e-commerce assets. So the company ultimately has three divisions. The THC division, we've got 109 stores, brick and mortar stores across Canada. That makes us the largest in the country by corporate-owned store count. The flagship banner up there is Canna Cabana, and that's where the majority of our revenue comes from, about 2/3 of it. Our CBD division is something we established last year when we made a bunch of acquisitions in the United States. We bought Fab CBD, and as I mentioned, we bought New Leaf Naturals towards the end of the year there. And then that's in the US, and in the UK, we bought a company called Blessed CBD. So we have three brands of CBD. Both the US and the UK. The plan is to bring those brands from one country to the other and bring both those brands up to Canada, where we have the 109 stores. So they're separate markets, but you can see how they all kind of integrate. And the third one is our accessories division. So this is where the company started. Founder and CEO Raj Grover, he started with literally 2 employees and 40 selling consumption accessories in Calgary, built it out to 19 stores, and saw the writing on the wall that cannabis was going to become legal, and people weren't going to go to a dispensary to buy weed and then go to his store to buy accessories. But so our division has been around for about 12 years. We design, manufacture, import, wholesale, and retail thousands of SKUs of consumption accessories. And we own 3 of the 5 most popular online platforms for accessories as you measure them by site visits. So they're grasscity.com, smokecartel.com, dailyhighclub.com. So the 3 divisions, they operate sort of as integrated as you can. But the ultimate goal is to be selling to cannabis consumers, retail focused, and doing whatever you can that's federally legal, which in the United States right now is CBD and accessories, where we're running at about $70 million run rate right now in the US, and another 10 of CBD in the UK.
Interesting. So, one thing we kind of joked about before we started recording was how difficult it is to navigate, between one border and another as we kind of find this new product and new legislation. Is that what the goal is, or the thought process is, that maybe obviously the UK being separate from Euro or from, most of the European Union, do we see this triangle coexisting where we'll start to have the ability to legally have these companies coexist, and like seeds can be transferred, plants can be taken, things like that to get started up? Because that's technically international trafficking, technically.
Yeah, it'll be a while until you can actually physically take the plants from one country to the other, right? Right now,
So
even though
just smokable accessories.
Exactly, and even the U.S., right? States that touch each other, like California and Nevada or Arizona, it's all federal, it's all state legal, but you can't take over from one state to the other, right? Yeah. So that's going to be a long time away. But what you can do is you can take the brands and the IP, right? So whether it's the way the New Leaf's operations and their innovations, for example, the multi-cannabinoid vitamins that they have, right, that are blends of CBG, CBN, etc. We can bring that IP from one country to another, but you can't bring the physical products. Now, the ultimate goal for us is to be number one in the United States THC market, right? And it's the same playbook that we had in Canada, where we were number one in accessories, right? And we've been doing that for 12 years. And as soon as we got the green light, we were able to leverage the 19 stores that we had, the customer share, the market share, the presence, into being number one in THC. It's the same playbook we have in the United States, where we have over 3 million customers that have all bought either a CBD, or accessories online. They bought it from us. We know where they live. We're in contact with them regularly. Once we get the green light from the feds so that we wouldn't lose our NASDAQ listing, we're in a great position